Okay, let's play the game. You all, I suppose, if your game is running, you've played. You guys are having some issues? Okay, I'll come and help you in a minute. But you can keep trying on your own if you like. So this is something I've left for you, how to create a splash screen. I posted a tutorial, a link to a tutorial on it. Follow that tutorial, and right now our app, it opens. When it opens on the list and it lets you play the game. Your job is to implement the screen before this. That's going to be the splash screen. And that tutorial has all the instructions in it, everything. So since it was a very nice tutorial readily available, I said, okay, this is something that you can do on your own, self-learning. And this is when, like when we started this tic-tac-toe, I said that this is going to become an assignment that you will submit. So that is going to be a part of the submission. You have to submit with the splash screen. So I'm going to skip this part. Storing data. So now we've played a game. We've got some variables about what moves were played, etc., etc. And a state. X won the game, what moves were played. And maybe the timestamp. We want to save this information now. What are the different ways of saving data when it comes to computers? In the database, in the memory. What else? What else can you do? File, you can save it to a file. Various options. Right? And like any other computer system, Android has all those options available. You can create a file and save the data in whatever way you like. There are fully functional databases available. SQLite is available. How many of you are familiar with SQL, SQL? What is SQL? Relational database. So SQL is the language you use to operate on a relational database. So it's like a table, like imagine an Excel spreadsheet. Something like that, where the columns contain a predefined type of data, and there are many rows of such data. And SQL is structured query language. It allows you to make changes to that. And this Lite is a lighter version. It may not be as powerful. Most of the things you do online, there somehow, somewhere a database is involved. When you log on to your bank's website, somewhere they are storing your user ID and your password, etc. You know, all those things are databases. And they use SQL to operate on that. So Android gives you a fully functional database like that. You can store information, you can create columns, you can do lots of things using that. So that is one option. What we are going to do is we're going to look at what is called user preferences. So this was in the homework that I wanted you to read. What it is it's designed to store key value pairs. So as the name suggests, preferences. Give me an example of a preference. Like, for example, you're using your email app. What could be a preference? Like, you know, things like whether you want the background dark, what theme to use, for example. Light text on dark background or dark text on light background. Those are the kind of things. And those are very suitable for key value pairs. How many messages to show in one screen? What is the font size? All those things are preferences. They very nicely fit into key value. So it is an important concept that you need to learn. And in our case, we'll use the current example to learn this, how to save key value pairs. So what we'll do is our game data we'll save it as key value pairs because we don't expect to play 500,000 games, so it's not going to be a huge data. It's just we are using this tic-tac-toe app more to learn all these things. In an enterprise class game app where you expect lots of people to play and lots of games, you would not use key value pairs. You would use a database. Maybe you'll use a file. Well, even databases internally are stored in files. So everything is stored in files anyway. Persistent storage we're talking about. So if you dig deeper into user preferences, you will find that those are also stored in files. Key value. It has its own system of retrieval and saving. So how do we save this information? We need to define keys. We need to define keys. If it's key value pairs, we need to define keys that we can retrieve later on. So one thing is we will have these same keys for each game. So let's say you've played 10 games. Each game will have a different winner. Could have, out of the 3 possibilities, win, lose, draw, it could be different for different games. So first thing we need to know is game number. When we are saving information, if it's game number 1, we could call this key, for example, who won, and then the game number. This is the number that will go here. So it could be 1 for the game 1, 2 for the second game. So we define our own way of, how we are going to create these keys. So first game, if we want to find out who won the first game, we'll look for a key called who won and then the number 1 and retrieve it from the data, from the user preferences object. In the same way, what were the moves played, what is the timestamp, with the same number appended to it. Right, so moves and then the same number and the timestamp and then the same number. So this is for the first game. Then for the second game, so when game number is 1, then game number is 2, it's the same initial part and then 2. So we are creating our own, in a way, our own database. Like I said, this is not what you would do if you're doing an enterprise class work. You would use a database and you would, design it properly. Here we want to learn how to use user preferences. Might as well use it now. So like this. And when we are retrieving data from the memory, how do you know how many games to retrieve? Where does it stop? One way is you could say, okay, keep on retrieving until you get a null. Right? That is one way of doing it. So you retrieve game 1, who won, and it has a value in it. It's not null. Then you know that that game was actually played. Then you do it for 2, then you do it for 3. That is one way of doing it. The other way is that apart from all of these sets, we store total number of games played so far. So if 5 games have been played, we know that we need to iterate from 1 to 5. So we'll store these and we'll store a number called number of games played, basically. Number of games. So that is one object, and then all of these per game, the 3 of them per game. So far, so clear? So this is what we wanted to do. Android user preferences. I'm going to go to the Android documentation instead of going somewhere else. So this, what we want to do is Let me just make sure that I have a feeling that I'm typing it wrong. I think the internal class is called shared preferences. There. This is the class we are going to use, or an object of this. Actually, this is an interface. So this is the documentation of the functionality, and they have a developer guide for more information about using C data storage developer guide. Let's open that. You know what? I'm just going to go to the link I posted there for you, because I think that is better. Okay, save key value data. So the idea is this. You first retrieve a shared preferences object. So this object gives you access to how, and it is per app. It's not, like you have an app running on your phone, that app has its own shared preferences. These are separate from another app. Even if you are the developer of those two apps, you cannot access, because of security reasons. You can't go and access data of another app. So you retrieve this shared preference object which belongs to your app, and this is how it looks like in Kotlin. Based on your activity, you call this get shared preferences, and you are actually allowed to have multiple of those preferences objects. You can define them by giving a file name, and if you need just one shared preference file, you can use this. So we are going to work with this. We are going to work with only one. So this is in Kotlin, this is in Java. This is how you get your preferences object. And then once you have it, what do? You can write data to it, write to shared. So you got your shared preferences object, and then this syntax with, have you seen this already in Kotlin? Okay. In Java, this is what you do. You retrieve that object, and then from that object, you retrieve another object called the editor, which actually allows you to make changes, read data, write data, etc. And on that object, you run these methods, put integer. So it has various methods. If you look at the documentation, you will find that methods such as put int, put string. So it gives you all of those, you are able to put boolean, put float. So whatever your preference type is, whether it's boolean, int, long, whatever it is, you have a method for it, and you save it, and then you commit, and this is done. So in Kotlin, you see how much typing, how much code is there in Java. You go to Kotlin and it is about half of that. Why? So there is this keyword called with. So when you say with and then put an object here, what you are saying is that inside whatever is there are going to be methods or properties that belong to this object. So this is equivalent of saying shared preferences dot edit dot put integer dot commit, which is what Java did. It retrieved the editor object and then said editor dot put, editor dot commit. So your code is less verbose. This is what how we can save the information. So that's what we will do, and the way we will do it is, in our game model, when the game is over, that would be the logical point to save the game. Until then, while the game is being played, we are not going to save half-played games. Let's put it this way. If you play the game halfway through and you quit the app and you come back, you won't be able to restart it. We are not providing that functionality. We have made that decision. So whenever we are returning a true in this game over, that's where we will call a method save game, which is going to do all of that business. It will get the shared object, shared preferences, and save the information about the game. So that is something this is going to be our prototype. And this is what will get called from whenever we are returning true. So those two places where we are returning to, whether the game is finished or it's a draw, we call this. And it's going to save the game. It's 2:45 right now. I don't want to start it now. We won't be able to finish it in 5 minutes. So I would rather start from here in the next class so we are able to save the game. And also retrieve that same information and populate our list. That's what we have left for us.